Ginger Running live show every Wednesday night at 6:30 p.m. on YouTube. So I am delighted tonight. I am here with HarryJones, he placed 15th at UTMB in 2019. It was his first 100-miler, and that made him the third British guy to cross the line, and he's also a coach too. So welcome, Harry. How are you tonight?
Hey guys, I'm all good here in Cardiff and Wales. And yeah, it's good to be back on the show and talking to you.
Fantastic. Well, Harry has a YouTube channel as well. It's called Harry Runs. So if you're not yet subscribed to that channel, then definitely go over there and hit the subscribe button, because it's absolutely fantastic. And there's loads more videos about what we're going to be talking about tonight, which is mainly the UTMB and training for it. So we've got some audience questions tonight here, Harry. So I'm going to kick off with one, if that's all right, because
that's awesome.
It's Adrian Camillari says, greetings from Malta.
Wow.
And his coach is Jason Greenaway, and he knows you and he thinks that you're brilliant, apparently. That's
nice to hear.
Yeah. Adrian is vegan, and so you've been an inspiration to him for a while, and he also loves that you're a really true ambassador for the sport. So his question is about where you've chosen to live and train, because he watches a lot of your videos when you were living in Thailand. So he just wanted to know a little bit about your background, like why you decided to go to Thailand and then why you then came back to Wales. So could you just take us a little bit about your path through Southeast Asia?
Yeah, I'll try and fast track it, because I guess it could get quite a long answer, really. So I grew up in Wales, always kind of ran in Wales, and then bit of time in the mountains, more just hiking in the mountains rather than racing or running in the mountains. And then ended up traveling, like a lot of people do, I guess, after university or before university. So I finished my exams, finished my university degree, and then myself and partner Louise ended up traveling, and we ended up in Thailand. After traveling a bit of Southeast Asia, we kind of decided that we'd like to hang around there for a while, get some jobs, and see what living in Thailand would be like, rather than just kind of traveling through countries at a fast pace, really just kind of settling down for a little while and seeing what that would be like. So we ended up in Chiang Mai, which is in the north of Thailand. With anyone who hasn't been there, you've got the city, which is I think it's the second largest city in Thailand, so it's quite big, but it's not massive. But basically shouldering the city, it just basically leads into the mountain range. So you've just got mountains after mountains that just kind of head all the way towards Myanmar. So it's pretty spectacular once you get up out onto those in nature. So it really meant that I could live in a city and kind of embrace the Thai culture, and I was teaching at the time in the school, and then on the weekends I could kind of head in the other direction and run up into the mountains, and that really, being there really allowed me to kind of rekindle my love for running. I'd always ran, but for a few years there I just kind of lost touch with it, because I'd always been so focused on racing. Because I used to race track when I was younger, I just kind of fell out of love with the sport. And then when I was back in Thailand, I really started just exploring the trails there. Runs got longer and longer, and then heard about this sport called ultrarunning and trail running and mountain ultras, and it just sounded incredible. I didn't realize that people ran so far in one go, and just have that much time on the mountains sounded really exciting to me. So then I just kind of started pursuing that a little bit more. So since then I've able to kind of travel a bit with the races and explore some different parts of the world and be able to train in some big mountains, which has been great fun. But right now I'm back in Cardiff, back in Wales. One reason to be closer to family, but also just to really be able to embrace all the beautiful spaces that we have here in the UK, which unfortunately we can't do right now. But where I am in Cardiff, Cardiff isn't very far from the Brecon Beacons, which is where I do a lot of my training over the winter. So it's been great just to be able to explore local mountain ranges a bit more closer to home this year, and it's been great.
It's so lovely living in Wales and being so close to the mountains. Well, it would be when we're out of lockdown. Do you think being in Thailand, did it improve your training and your trail running? Because it is very hot there, isn't it? Did you have to get up really early? Did it improve things?
Yeah, definitely. So when I was teaching, when I really kind of started getting into it properly, I had to get up super early anyway, because the school started at 7:30 in the morning. So So yeah, typically most life in that kind of part of the world does start a lot earlier anyway, because because of the heat, because of the humidity. So I think I was getting up at 5 a.m. and running for like an hour and a half, which was great because it meant that you could run through the city and it would just be very quiet. Just the kind of the market people walking around, getting their stalls ready and everything else. But yeah, the heat and the humidity played a big part. And I think it was definitely a training advantage running out there in those kind of conditions where even on an easy run, it's obviously very stressful. It allows your body to adapt to that heat, which, then if you, it is an adaptation that you do lose, quite quickly, just as you would with altitude training. But it's something that I feel like once you've had that kind of long exposure for a while, you can kind of get away with racing in a hotter, more humid climate if you're not used to it, a bit quicker, a bit easier maybe than you would before. But definitely if you're training in a hot environment, and then you're coming straight to a cooler place to race, it really helps for sure. Definitely an advantage that I felt when I was living in Thailand, and then I think some of the first ultras I did were in Hong Kong in the winter time there. And Hong Kong can be very hot, but in the winter it's actually quite cool. So coming from the Thailand heat to Hong Kong was a big advantage for me in races like the Hong Kong 100, I think.
That's really interesting. I've never thought of the heat being an advantage, a bit like altitude before. That's really interesting that you say that. And we've got another question now from Guy Greater X. He would like to know, let's just put it up on the screen here. He's just wondering if you will be going back to live in Thailand after the pandemic is over, and he's just wondering how hard it's been to motivate yourself during this time. Have you been, how hard is it to motivate yourself to go into your garage and run on your treadmill? How hard has that been?
Well, I think it's been hard for everyone. I think that's the most important thing to remember, isn't it? So I think in the UK, really, it feels like it's been maybe a little bit more drawn out than perhaps it's been in other countries with the situation. But I think from the start, wherever we've been in the UK, you've been able to go out at least once a day to exercise. So for myself in the beginning, I wasn't going out running for that once a day. I was using that time to spend with Louise, my partner, to go walking together, because it would be the only way we'd get outside together and enjoy it. And that's something we do on a daily basis anyway before all this. So I thought it was more important just to take a step back from training at that point to make sure we're both happy and able to enjoy our time together. And running kind of came secondary for the first time for a while for me, I guess, during all this. But I think that's the same for a lot of us who've had to kind of really prioritize what's important, and at least it's given us all a chance to reflect on a few things as well. So I ended up getting a treadmill, which was something I was looking towards doing coming into next winter as a preparation, just because we did have a very miserable winter, and I did find it very, very difficult to get out maybe in the winter time when I was preparing for ultra races earlier in the year, on those double days maybe as well. So I did get a treadmill, which I found quite fun at the time, because when I had the treadmill during this lockdown period, I hadn't been running for maybe 6 weeks. So it was amazing suddenly to have some form of running, and it was quite a fun challenge for me mentally, at least, because treadmills are always something I've always just not bothered with, because I'd always rather be outside. But it's quite a fun way to embrace the running training, and there's obviously a few different style sessions you can do on the treadmill, and you almost have to enter, at least for me, another type of kind of mental training to be able to stay on the treadmill for as long as I'd like to get the similar kind of benefits as I'd have outside. But I guess moving forward, as lockdown has eased off, it's been a bit easier, because now I'm out again running and enjoying maybe some quieter spots that maybe I wouldn't normally run in, just so I'm not avoiding the crowds in the park. So that I am avoiding crowds in the parks and everything else. So I forgot the main.
Oh yeah, no, that was it. Yeah. But then after lockdown and after all this is over, do you see yourself going back to Southeast Asia, or do you think you'll stay in Britain for a bit of a while now?
Yeah, so Thailand, I don't think it's going to be somewhere I'm going to permanently live or base myself again. It'll be somewhere I definitely plan on visiting for maybe a few weeks here and there in the future. We did have a trail running camp that we were running out there for a few years. We were lucky to have Sage Canada come along, and Sandy, his partner there, and then Lucy Bartholomew one of the years as well. But that coupled with my local Thai trail running friends who all got involved, and and be able to kind of show off Chiang Mai and the surrounding mountains was a really great experience. So that's something we're really looking forward to doing again. We'll have to see. It's not going to happen probably this year due to the situation, but I think into 2021 and beyond, we'll try and do that every year, just because it's such a fun event. But just to bring together that Thai trail running community a little bit as well is always good fun.
Well, that sounds fantastic. That would be a brilliant training camp out there in Thailand. So yeah, everybody follow Harry on Instagram to find out more details of that when the next one is available. So at this point, I've got some questions about your kind of track career and how you came from track to ultras before we move on to the UTMB training chat. But I just wanted to give you a sense of people watching because you're a very popular guest here on Wild Ginger Running YouTube channel. So we've got Robin Townsend says hello. Sebastian says this should be a great one, looking forward to it. Philip, hello Harry and Claire. Paul Hamilton says love Harry, what an inspiration. We've got Sharon Jameson, we've got Frank Tafuno, we've got Jasper Kiernan, who has a question just coming up, Di Wilson, who's also got a question tonight, and Stephen Mackey says hi, John's here, there's tons of people watching, Nigel, Antonio Cardinelli says hello Harry, Sue Marsh is here, yeah, Biker Bob is here. So yeah, tons of people, just to give you a little flavour of who is watching there.
Cool, awesome.
And Nadia Federman has just said hello as well. So we come on to the next question, which is a little bit about your track to 100k ultra kind of journey. So Paul Hamilton would like you to just say what happened, like why did you go from track racing to 100k ultras and beyond? Like why did you make that decision?
Yeah, so just I guess like a lot of, well, not a lot of runners, but yeah, runners. Yeah, so for myself, I came into running through the school cross-country lesson, I guess. We had PE, and then suddenly we were in high school and we were running cross-country in PE, and I'd never done it before. I never, gone out just to run, really, I think. But obviously, like any kid, I was really active with different sports. So I'd always be in the back garden, maybe shooting a basketball around, kicking a football, or out on my skateboard, or what have you. So I was always very active. But yeah, we had the school cross-country lesson, and if you can't tell, if you've never seen me in person, I was obviously quite small, so that probably helped as well compared to a lot of the lads were all kind of rugby lads and stuff. So when we had to run, 5 laps of the kind of school fields and maybe a bit of the farm behind, I managed to come out one of the fastest guys, which was a big surprise to me. So that was great fun. And then, I just kind of entered the sport through that direction then. So I just started doing some of the races with the school and then ended up at the local athletics track. And then my running was really just based around that kind of system then, I guess, really training with a track group and ended up having a bit of speed there and then focusing more on the middle distance events. So I was focused on 800 and 1500, more so the 1500 meter distance suited me a bit more. And then just had that passion for just really trying to go as fast as I could over those 3 3/4 laps. And like a lot of things I get into, I really want to be the best I can. So I was really very focused on it from quite a young age. I'd be kind of getting up early and going for a nice easy jog in the morning and then training in the track in the evening and probably doing it maybe a little bit too much at times than I should have been at that age. I think coaches were often telling me just to chill out really and relax, which is always my advice to any young athlete now, just to chill, because if you want to be consistent, you have to take your time now and leave yourself somewhere to grow with your training as you develop and as you get older. But yeah, I just kind of pursued that up until university years. And then I think it was maybe towards, my final year of university. I think I didn't really have any major injuries. I just maybe had a few niggles, which now would, I would just take a couple of weeks off and be back to training again. But I just ended up just kind of realizing that it wasn't something I was quite as passionate or serious about anymore. And it wasn't something that I was getting as much enjoyment as I'd like. Or maybe I just felt like it wasn't my competitive nature, I guess. I felt like I was putting a lot more into it than I was getting back out of it. And as you get older with track running, that's obviously going to be the case when it comes from when you're in the younger years, you'll work all season, you'll get maybe a 10-second PB, a 5-second PB, and then as you get older, you're chasing a second here, 2 seconds there if you're lucky. And I just wasn't feeling like I was getting to where I wanted to. So yeah, I started pursuing other things, and I was playing drums in a few bands at the time, so that was good fun and a bit more of that kind of rock and roll lifestyle. And then and then university finished, got that, got the degree and everything else, and then just kind of went into full-time work like a lot of people do. And then the traveling started, and then, like I said earlier in the conversation, I just started running a bit more frequently again, started going out for these longer runs and kind of mapping them out on the computer and realizing that I was covering some good distance and feeling really good and strong for it. So then I just entered the Chiang Mai Marathon, and then it all kind of grew from there, really. I kind of skipped that bit in the middle between track running and marathons and just kind of went straight from one end to the other, I guess. Which was quite funny, but it felt great fun at the time.
that is funny, isn't it, to go from just running around a track and then all of a sudden doing 100k, and you don't take things by half, because the UTMB was your first 100 miler as well, and we'll get into that in just a bit. But we have got one really interesting question here from Jasper Kiernan. He says, awesome guest, really looking forward to tonight. And he says, Harry, coming from a track athletics background, which has had a problem with drug sheets and doping, do you think trail and ultra running is relatively clean, and is there any sort of testing system for the elite runners?
Yeah, I mean, it's a relevant question for sure. I've not witnessed any of it firsthand, so it's impossible for me to say, but I think, like any sport, there probably is a few individuals who are doing some stuff that is illegal or against the rules, obviously. If you see my most recent UTMB video, a few people asked in the comments, you actually see me getting a blood test at the race there. So with the Ultra Trail World Tour races that I race in, and with the ITRA, which is the International Trail Running Association, they have what they call the quartz system. So if you are one of the elite athletes and you are finishing on the podiums, or your score, like your ranking is like above a certain level, you will get tested before the major races. So partly due to like health and their research, so that's great, because it kind of is looking out for the runners. Quite often they're telling me before a race that that's something that my blood numbers are maybe looking a bit fatigued, which isn't something you always want to hear before a race, but still within the normal range. But you'd like them to tell you that obviously everything's looking great and really high. But it is important to have that kind of feedback, I think, for elite athletes, especially in a sport like ultra running, which is relatively quite new and quite young. So it is nice to know like what the limits are with training a little bit, really, and the demands on the sport. So I guess that picture from a science perspective will grow as the results come in over the years. But yeah, they are testing them for other products or other things, I believe. Or if you have got abnormally high blood scores, then obviously, according to your biological passport, they could, pull you up for something a bit more serious then, I guess. If you are one of the elites who is representing their country, I believe, at the World Championships, I believe anyway, or some of the guys like Kylian Jornet, for example, who's on the, does a lot of ski mountaineering, and he's in the world champs there all the time, then some of those runners may be on that kind of biological passport system that people of the athletics community would be on as well. So there is testing, but there isn't enough testing for sure. You need to be testing people year round, which is always the discussion that's being brought up across all sports, because you need to catch people when they don't expect it, basically, don't you? So hopefully things will improve there, but I guess it's a big process, and there's a lot of money involved in it as well to get the testing as efficient as it needs to be. But there is some level of testing at the moment.
Yeah, and it's like, as if the prize pool is big, then you expect more things like that to happen, don't you? And then more testing to happen. But I know that Sage Canaday is quite up on the whole doping issue, and he quite a lot of the time he retweets, not at the moment because there's no racing going on, but he has in the past tweeted various things about it. So Jasper, if you're keen to follow those events, then maybe give Sage Canaday a follow as well. Yeah, Sage is really clued up for sure. Yeah, definitely. And yeah, if anybody wants to see Harry's UTMB UTMB video, I have put a link to his YouTube channel in the description below this film, so get on there, and also you can see I've done an interview with you, Harry, after the UTMB, didn't I? So that's in there as well, so you can see Harry finishing on there. Fantastic. And now we are actually talking about the UTMB, and I've just mentioned you crossing the finishing line, and I was there, and it just felt so fantastic. How did you personally feel at just nailing your first 100-mile race?
Yeah, it felt amazing. Obviously, crossing that finishing line was just the best feeling after 24 hours on your feet, to be able to kind of collapse and then just made it is an amazing feeling for sure. I think that, as well as the crowds and the support in Chamonix, I was very lucky to still have quite a lot of people cheering at the finish line at that time, so that was amazing. I felt like I won the race even though I was 15th, but just everyone's support was incredible. And yeah, it was just a really good personal achievement, and to be able to see my partner Louise at the finish line as well, who is a big part of my training process and everything leading up to her as well. She supports me a lot, and it really means a lot to be able to share that with family as well. So yeah, it was an incredible feeling, and then I guess that with the kind of natural runner's high that you have is just, it's like nothing else. So it was amazing, really incredible feeling.
Yeah, and you mentioned Louise as well, because didn't she spur you on kind of towards the end of the race when you were really feeling it, and she was just like, this is what you came for? How did she help in that respect?
Yeah, so I think that was the biggest takeaway for me coming out of the race, was that moment where Louise just said the right words at the right time. I think she mentioned, so-and-so's just come in to the aid station before you, and you're not looking as destroyed as they are, or this runner came in and they were vomiting in a bucket, and you look great. Like, you're telling me that you look tired, but you look great, so just keep going, push on. And then as soon as you kind of get those thoughts in your head, like, yeah, actually, like, I can do it. So yeah, that kind of spurred me on to really think, okay, there's a runner ahead that I can see, I'll go catch them up. And then I just kept thinking, okay, get another runner, catch another runner. And then when you get to that last major climb, it's very steep, and you can see it kind of zigzagging up the mountain. I could see all these runners hiking up, and realistically, if you're going at that same pace, they're probably 20 minutes ahead of you or what have you. But if you can move a lot faster and run a lot faster, you'll catch them within a few minutes. So I suddenly had this kind of overwhelming last second wind in the race, and was able to catch quite a fair few runners in that last section. But that was the takeaway, really, is that so much of it is mental within those longer races. And I think what happened is I just seen all these strong runners that were around me that have raced before, and they were maybe having really tough moments within the race, and you kind of absorb some of that mental, not negativity, but some of that mental struggle that everyone else is going through, and you think, I should be feeling that as well. Or maybe you don't, or just subconsciously you start to kind of have some of those sensations as well. Whereas if you can kind of shake it off, you realize, actually, there's a lot more to give. And that's something that's always been a big part within 100-kilometer races that I've had and experienced, because I've done so many at that distance, that I've always been able to kind of find the extra gear towards the end of those races. But I just wasn't quite expecting that in the 100-miler, to be able to run so fast towards the end of the race. So I think, it was a big learning lesson at that point, really, just to know that even if it is one of those longer ultras and you've been out there for a lot longer than you ever have before, there's still always something deeper that you can pull up when you need to make it to the finish line that little bit quicker.
That is fascinating. I love how those few words said to you by Louise. It just highlights the importance of getting the right support crew, doesn't it, and getting the right people around you. And then you just were like the Duracell bunny. You just got another battery inside you, and you were off. It was brilliant. And so, can we just rewind a little bit back to your training for the UTMB? Like in a massive nutshell. Obviously, it takes years to train for this kind of thing. But for what was your kind of weekly mileage, and like what was your kind of weekly ascent? Did you log it like that, or was it all more on time?
Yeah, so it's all on Strava if anyone wants to kind of look back and see that. All my training's on there. But yeah, I think in terms of distance and time, what would generally happen when I look at a training block like that, from experience, I'll know that this kind of block of time throughout the week, so whether it's 20 hours or whatever I'm building up to, is achievable for my body to catch up with and to recover enough between those long days on the mountains. And then typically that ends up being around the kind of mileage and vertical that I'm looking for anyway. So I think from that standpoint, I was in Chamonix at the time, so I was in the perfect training ground for something like UTMB, and I was able to get onto some of the race trails for those longer, more specific race runs where I could run on the race course, which was great, over a few days with friends as well, which is fantastic, which really gives you that kind of similar sensations to what you experience on race day, by day 2 of doing some long days out there, but just being able to familiarize yourself with different points of the course as well. But yeah, from a time perspective, I think maybe at the most it was up to, I think there was some really big weeks, maybe 24 hours I would want to say, of running, but that was a lot of hiking as well, so that kind of gives you a bit more of less impact on the legs, but there was still 10,000 meters or so of climbing within that week, so yeah, it's a lot on the legs, but it was, like you say, it was the kind of year building up to those big weeks ahead of the race to know that the endurance was really at an all-time high before being able to kind of taper down towards race day. But really the principles I was aiming for was, just a lot of time on legs throughout the week, focusing within the block of doing some really kind of long back-to-back days, which are going to be important for something like a 100-miler, knowing that my body could take that. So it might not work for everyone, if you're not really aiming to be at the front of the pack, you might want to take a less risky approach. But yeah, back-to-back days for me there, and then still making sure I was putting some quality into the week. So still trying to do some element of speed. Not that it was super lightning fast, because it doesn't need to be for UTMB, but relative to the event itself. So still some kind of tempo work within the week, some strong uphill work, and some of that might have just been hiking at a fast, hard pace just to develop the strength there in the legs. Some of that was running quite hard on a more mild gradient, just to get the legs ready and the lungs and the heart and everything else pumping as much as you want to. But yeah, I think really anyone looking to kind of approach a 100-mile race like that in UTMB in the mountains, your main focus really has to be that endurance base as a whole, and just getting some really long days in your legs, and being sensible about it too.
Yeah, and just enjoying being in the beautiful mountains. What a great way to train and enjoy life. And we have a question from Bob Deary about your training, because he noticed on Strava that you do a lot of cycling. I'm not sure if you did a lot of cycling in the build up to UTMB, but did you find that training for the UTMB you put in a lot of cross training as well?
Yeah, not as much as I wanted to. So I did actually have my bike with me when I was in Chamonix, but I didn't end up getting out on cycling too much because I love cross training. I love riding my bike. I think a second after running, or sometimes I prefer it over running. It's just such a great way to get outdoors and to be able to spend a lot of time outdoors, but without necessarily thrashing your legs or giving your body a bit of a beating. So I think cycling is a fantastic cross training element, and you'll see a lot of the guys, a lot of the top guys in ultra running, doing a fair amount of cycling within their training routine, because it allows you to put a lot of extra time into building your aerobic base, but without causing any of that extra kind of, I say damage, but I don't mean like you should be damaging your legs when you're running. But obviously if you go for a lot, if you suddenly increase your volume of your running, you're going to feel that in your muscles. You're going to feel very sore. You might be putting a bit of risk on your joints or maybe a few other kind of injury prone areas if you don't build up slowly. But with cycling, you can get out on the bike for a whole day if you wanted to and just take it really easy, but be building that aerobic base, but you're not causing any extra fatigue or too much extra fatigue than you would if you were to do the same thing and go out for a super long run, which would take you days to recover. So in the lead up to UTMB, I didn't do a lot of cycling because I was really just trying to put most of my energy into time on feet, as I mentioned, with it being my first 100-miler as well. But yeah, right now I have been doing a lot of cycling. As I mentioned at the start of lockdown, I wasn't going out running. So I had a bike to train in the garage. So all my training, I just thought I'll just cycle on the bike train on Zwift, like a lot of people have been, just to keep myself sane and to have a bit of fun there. But yeah, since that, it's something I've kept up a bit more within my training, because with there being no immediate races right now, it's a good way, as I said, for me to still have a reasonable amount of training volume within the week, but really kind of give my running legs a bit more of a rest than I would do and also give myself an area to build on when the races do come back. So when the races are starting to be a little bit closer on the horizon, I'll probably transition, some of that time that I'm spending on the bike right now to maybe putting an extra run in on that day, or to increasing my running volume a little bit more again. But on the whole, cycling is something I've periodically done quite a lot of within my training, just because transport, for the main reason, when I was working, it was always my way to get back and forth to work if I wasn't running, commuting, and I just enjoy it. I think it's a great way to enjoy the outdoors.
Yeah, cycling is definitely awesome, and just the lower impact is just fantastic, complementary to trail running, isn't it? And you did mention also that you did some speed work along with the lot of running, but did you do any specific kind of strength training or anything for the UTMB? We've got a question here from Kurt who says, do you do anything specific to avoid being very quad dominant, like to activate the glutes and the hamstrings?
Yeah, sure. So I'll do some specific work with like your kind of Ferro bands, your elastic bands. I'll do some work with those to really try and make sure my glutes are being activated. Some single leg squats are an exercise that's super simple, but I really love, and something I've always kind of done because I really find it helps me with my mobility as well. With having a few ankle twists and rolls, like a lot of us do. For me anyway, I have to be really careful because my left leg is a little bit more dominant than my right, just because the right foot is the one that I always seem to roll if I'm being a bit stupid on the downhills or something like that. So I do a bit of focus there to make sure that everything is working well balanced between the two. But yeah, single leg lunges and squats and are my kind of go-tos. But yeah, during UTMB I wasn't necessarily doing a lot of strength work in the gym, just because I was spending so much time on the mountains that I was building a lot of strength just in the mountains themselves, going up steep terrain or coming down steep terrain with the descending. But yeah, making sure, like you said there, making sure you are keeping a bit of balance there between your quads and your hamstrings and your glutes is important for sure. So yeah, I'll always do a few single leg lunges and squats, always single leg, because I like to isolate the two legs, like I said, because otherwise I find that my left leg is always doing that little bit more work than my right if I'm not careful. So it's a good question.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much for those exercise tips as well. So we'll all be going and doing those once a week for sure. And you mentioned the uphills and the downhill, so I just wanted to ask you a little bit about the uphill and downhill training for UTMB, because obviously not everybody lives in a mountainous area. And am I right in thinking did you use poles on the UTMB?
For sure.
Yeah, you did.
Sure.
Oh, okay. So should we just talk a little bit about like the training for the uphills, and then there's an audience member question on the downhills.
Yeah, so I think with a race like UTMB where you've got over 10,000 meters of climbing in the race, you're going to be spending a lot of that time hiking. So unless you're really at the front of the field, or if you're Capel and you're sprinting around, you're going to be spending a lot of time hiking. And even those guys at the front, I think for me, I wasn't at the front when I was 15th, but I was hiking a majority of those climbs just because they're so long, and some of them are pretty steep, and it's a lot of accumulative gain. So you're going to be spending a lot of time hiking. So leading into a race like that, you should be putting some focus into hiking. So if you can get out to your mountains, trying to resist the temptation from running too much on the uphills and spending that quality time hiking. And when you get nice and efficient with the poles, you'll find yourself moving that little bit faster. And as a hiker, as someone who's focused on hiking a little bit more over these past few years, it makes all the difference. And you'll notice that I've been very lucky to train with runners like Scotty Hawker, who came third this year. He's a really fast, powerful hiker, and I've had runs when I first ran with him a few years back when he'd be hiking the uphill and I'd be hiking, and then I'd have to jog a couple of steps and then to catch back up with him, and he'd just be hiking the whole time because he's just very efficient and very powerful with that hiking motion. So it's about developing those hiking muscles and getting those ready and efficient, really, because it is a slight different, obviously, effect than if you're just running up those hills where you may be putting a little bit more through your calves and your quads.
Yeah, it is incredible how different running is to hiking, because when I was training for the Cape Wrath Ultra, I did a lot of running in my training. I was running like 20 miles, 30 miles, and then when I got to the actual race, I was just hiking a lot with poles, and I just got really worn out because I hadn't really trained for that.
Yeah, and when you're using the poles, yeah, you're obviously using your arms a lot more as well. So you need to get them stronger as well. Just, we don't mean just kind of doing lots of bicep curls, but just getting out there on the trails with the poles and making sure that you are putting some weight through them, because that's where the benefits coming from. But you don't need to put a lot through that. It's just that little bit, but it does add up throughout the course of a long race. Yeah, so that's really what I would say the focus should be. You really need to make sure you're getting some vertical in the legs and getting that hiking nice and strong for a race like UTMB. And yeah, it does take some time, and it is about having some big days in the mountains.
Yeah, definitely some weekends up in the Lake District and in Wales and the Peak District and things like that. And we have a question about the downhills now, again from Kurt, who says, I have to ask this one to every guest because I'm always looking for new insight. What tips do you have for running down technical descents? They scare the heck out of me and I wind up getting passed on the downs frequently.
Yeah, for sure. So it is difficult if you don't live somewhere where you've got technical trails to hand. I know this is something people struggle with. But yeah, with technical descents, it is about practice, I think, more than anything else. So you need to just, even if you've got a small local trail with maybe just 10 meters of somewhat technical trail, you can just kind of run back and forth along there, trying to be as efficient and almost trying to glide over as best you can, trying to make sure you're taking slightly different routes each time as well, just to kind of practice the unpredictable. But the main kind of takeaway I think you need to focus on is looking up a lot more than you think you should be. So I think a lot of people that are new to technical trails, or runners who perhaps haven't had a lot of experience or they are scared, will look down at their feet, and then what ends up happening is you end up running a lot slower or struggle a lot more with the terrain because it's coming at you a lot faster, because you're only looking at a small area right immediately in front of your feet. You don't have a lot of time to prepare. So if you try and bring your gaze up a little bit higher, and then you can look a lot further ahead of you, you'll probably surprise yourself over time with how much your brain remembers and talks to your legs without you really having to cognitively kind of process that. You'll have that kind of natural reaction going on, and your body will learn to kind of assess what's going on in front of you, and really almost like a musical sheet will kind of feed that through to your body and tell you which chords to play, or which where to step and where to land and what looks good. And along with that, like I said, it is experience though, because I feel like on a subliminal level as well, you kind of start to read the terrain a lot better. You understand what maybe a slippy rock looks like, or what that type of rock structure or grip will be like, or is that rock going to move? Is it going to support my weight? Does it look? You kind of scan the area a lot more efficiently than maybe you would in the past. So practice is what you need, but it doesn't mean you have to go to really big mountains all the time. Just getting to your local trail and finding a little bit of something that is a bit rougher will help you out.
That's fantastic, and I really like the looking ahead and also the looking at the different rocks to see which one might slip and which one might not. Because that's really useful information. You can only learn that with experience, can't you? You can't have someone just tell you, oh, this rock does this rock does that. You've got to find it out for yourself.
Yeah.
And then we've got a little bit about injury prevention. So we've got a bit about injury and blisters as another question as well. So I want to read you out a question from Seb here, who says, first of all, great guest. Really looking forward to this one. And belated congratulations to Harry on his performance at UTMB. So I would be interested in some of Harry's strategy for injury prevention, like anything he does exercise-wise, diet-wise, recovery, etc. Because ultra running can be very hard on the body. So he is looking for some insight for his ultra running training.
Yeah, so kind of going back to those kind of basic strength work that I was discussing earlier. In the winter months, I kind of got into the routine now, doing a lot more strength-focused stuff just to build it up towards the season, make sure everything's structurally sound, and maybe overcoming, as I mentioned, a few of those ankle tweaks or little kind of minor injuries that maybe you'd pick up for a hard racing season. So it is important if you've got maybe if you've got a local gym nearby, or know a strength trainer, or contact a strength trainer. It could be a good idea to learn a little bit more about different strength work you could implement into your running to help kind of give yourself a little bit more confidence in your body in terms of the damage that you might do to it if you kind of step up your training into the more summer months when you might spend more time in the mountains or be running an ultra. But even, like I said, just doing the basics, so just doing some lunges, doing some step ups, some single leg squats. The kind of exercises that mean that you have to use the stabilizing muscles in your legs. So you have to have that sense of balance in there, as well as the strength component. Then you'll be kind of strengthening yourself up and preparing yourself for being on uneven terrain a little bit more. So having something like a balance board or a Busu board are great as well for really getting the ankles and the stabilizing muscles nice and strong while you're doing those exercises, are really useful for trail runners. So that, as well as, you know, spending some time in the mountains, even if you're just hiking around, you are, you know, you're going to be strengthening up your body there and helping it get used to that kind of terrain. So there's specificity there. But yeah, cross training elements. If you're playing, you know, sports that are very kind of multi-directional, not that I do, but yeah, if you're someone who does different things, you know, so if you're doing something like squash or football or anything like that, what I found with the athletes that I coach is they're often have a certain level of resilience then towards, you know, maybe rolled ankles or injuries like that, because they're constantly used to changing directions and putting different stresses on the joints. And so those are great sports to kind of pick up or to get back into, maybe just once a week or now and again, if you have the opportunity to do that, just to keep your body moving in a slightly different way on different directions. Because when we're running, we're usually just kind of going forwards, hopefully. But yeah, if you're on the trails, you're going to be putting a few demands on your legs in different directions if you're hopping over rocks or what have you, or if you take a slip and you kind of land a bit funny, you'll be a bit more prepared for that. So that's always something that's cool to implement into everything. But for me, as I said, it's just a bit more strength in the winter, so maybe I'll lift a few heavier weights, nothing crazy, but really just focusing in on those kind of basic exercises, maybe doing some extra balance work. But because I dedicate a lot of time to the mountains throughout the year, my body kind of holds up quite well, really.
That's a fantastic answer, and I like the thing about the other sports as well, because I know that Seb does play hockey, so I think that will stand him in good stead.
Yeah, definitely.
And I just want to read you out a couple of questions because people are really enjoying this, so I just thought you might want to know. King Lifetail says, "Thank you guys, perfect video to eat with my tea." And Sharon Jameson says, "Ace advice, Harry, thanks." Yep, tons of people. Adrian Camillari says, "Woohoo, loving this." And Paul Hamilton said, "Thanks, Harry, your answer was really interesting. Thank you," because you answered one of his questions.
I think so, yeah. Another aspect of that last one with recovery, yeah, obviously sleep, really important. Again, it's a good sleep routine, as we all know. Bit of maybe kind of self massage if you've got any kind of tight areas, or going to a masseuse or physio to get those sorted out. Foam rolling quite regularly, and yeah, just looking after yourself and investing some time into that recovery process is as important as the training itself, and that's always something important to remember.
Yeah, we all forget that, don't we? Seb is actually here, and he says thank you so much for such a detailed answer. So yeah, thank you.
Cool.
And we just got a few more questions, and the next one is also, it's kind of like injury, but different type of injury here. So Vic Knight is keen to know what kind of foot management or blister prevention strategy do you use on ultras? Do you use like Vaseline or double socks or tape? What do you do?
Yes, I'm quite lucky that I don't seem to have much issues with blisters these days. Probably just from the years of running. Like I said, even though I haven't been racing ultras, all the way through, it's been a few years of ultras now, but because I've been running from such a young age and doing plenty of other sports, I've always kind of had quite hard calluses on my feet. So that suits me quite well. So I haven't really, so I think after UTMB, I don't think I had any blisters, and amazingly no black toenails, which was great. Probably because one or two were already missing. But yeah, I think really my advice would be for anyone, just to put some Vaseline on your feet, and have a good pair of socks that aren't going to get too heavy, that are going to wick away the moisture. So I haven't got any tans right now. But yeah, making sure you've got some nice kind of lightweight socks which aren't going to hold a lot of moisture in is an important aspect of that. So maybe with a long ultra, or even if it's just a moderately long ultra, changing your shoes halfway through or changing your socks halfway through could help you if you suffer maybe then you'd have if you do have any particular hotspot areas that you suffer from, or you just areas that always blister up and don't seem to get any stronger, applying some tape ahead of the race would be really useful to those areas. Or just if you wanted to go really kind of heavy into it, I guess you could try hardening your feet with rubbing alcohol, I think is what some people will try, but that's pretty hardcore. But yeah, what I would also say as well is if you know that you're going to be running an ultra where you're going to be wet for a lot of the time, so typically if you're running an ultra in the UK in the winter time, it's going to, or autumn even, it's going to be very wet likely, and if you're in the mountains, probably going to be quite boggy maybe at some points. So trying to really replicate that in training in your long runs as well, even if that means purposely jumping into a stream at the beginning of your run to get your feet wet and then running that run with wet feet. It might suck within the moment and you might end up with some blisters within that run, but you'll learn how to kind of run through that pain and discomfort a little bit as well, or at least you'll be able to test whether your foot management skills, so what you've done before the run, so whether you've put Vaseline on or if you've taped your feet, how well that holds up, and then that will give you a little bit more confidence in the race. As well as making sure that you've got enough space in your shoes as well. So if your shoes are too tight, then you're likely going to have a few more blisters going on, or if there's any areas that are rubbing a little bit more. So maybe trying to lace up your shoes a little bit differently, or going up a shoe size could help as well to avoid those black toenails if that's an issue too.
Yeah, going up a shoe size is definitely a thing. Like your feet can just get squashed in like that when they swell, can't they? So up a shoe size is definitely something that I definitely need to look into as well. And so we just got a couple of questions about your plant-based diet, and then before we talk about what you're doing next, and some exciting family news that you've got. So first of all, these questions kind of combine into two, so I'll do them both at the same time.
Okay.
Because you'll probably cover both. So Arlene Meatlock has been vegan for over a year. She was veggie before that for a long time, and she's found that she recovers much faster now. She thinks the dairy foods were giving her joint inflammation, but she sometimes misses cheese and ice cream. So she wants to know how long you've been vegan for, and what do you consider your most important fueling tips during a race, and then recovery afterwards as well. So don't worry, I'll read this again in a minute. And then
how long have it been? So go on, carry on. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. And then
okay, go.
Philip Haddock wants to know what your favourite snacks are on a long run. So I was just reading that out in case you might cover it in what your most important fueling tips during a race. So should we start with how long have you been vegan for? And why did you make the transition?
So I've been vegan for 7 years now. The transition was just kind of a natural progression, really. I think it was more for the animal side of things. My partner Louise, who I've been with for a long time, she's been vegetarian since she was 10, I believe. And she made that decision herself because she didn't want to eat animals anymore. And then as we started our relationship, she kind of got the ball spinning in my head, I guess, of these ideas and how it kind of related. At the time I was still running track, and so I kind of had the whole I'm an athlete, I need my meat, and I need to be strong and all this mindset. And then gradually, I guess I just more and more started eating more vegetarian meals, kind of cutting meat out of my diet. So it was a really gradual thing over a number of years for me. And then I think we were in India at the start of our travels, and I realized after maybe a month that it had been a month since I'd eaten any meat at all, because where we were at the time volunteering, it didn't look that appealing to eat meat. So I realized I'd been kind of vegetarian for a whole month fully, and I felt great for it, and I felt really energized and didn't have any issues, and I was doing a bit of running and going to the gym and stuff like that, and then I just thought, okay, I'll carry this on at least. So I was kind of vegetarian for a year then, and then I think when we settled in Thailand, we kind of made the switch then to cut dairy out of our diet, and I think cheese was probably one of the last things for us to give up, which is kind of funny because in Thailand it's quite hard to get hold of cheese. It's not particularly something people eat a lot of. So eventually we kind of cut that out, and we started feeling great. The question was said, recovery felt great for me, and it tied in then to me really learning about these longer trail races, ultra races. So of course people like Scott Jurek and probably Rich Roll as well, these ultra athletes who are vegan, plant-based. I've started reading a bit about these guys and realizing that it could be done and it was safe to do it, which was, 7 years ago. It's not a long time ago, but even since between now and then, there's so much more out there and so many more athletes, at least who are vocal about it now. So yeah, that gave me the confidence to really pursue it and carry on with it, and I felt better and better for it. And and then so the kind of athletic side of it was a bit of a byproduct really, and from the kind of humane side of it. So it's something I'm really, really happy with, and I couldn't imagine not being vegan anymore.
And do you find it difficult, flying to all these races at different places, to find things to fuel yourself during the race, or do you take a lot of vegan snacks with you? Have you got any favourites?
I would say these days it's pretty easy, really. And maybe that ties in with myself being a little less fussy as well. I think when you first go vegan, you're really looking for, or plant-based, maybe you're looking for a lot more direct alternatives to what you used to eat before, if that makes sense. And then the more you kind of enjoy the diet and explore different recipes, different types of foods, and maybe slightly different eating routines, or different meals that you wouldn't necessarily be eating otherwise. So for me, I kind of found myself really adaptable then to wherever I'm traveling. I really kind of enjoy the local fruit and veggies on offer, or have more confidence maybe if I go into a restaurant that doesn't necessarily offer a vegan or even a vegetarian dish, just being a lot more confident to say, I'm really, I'm vegan, but it doesn't have to be complicated. Just give me some fresh vegetables and some brown rice and some potatoes or whatever it is, or some beans and chickpeas or what have you. And then if you have the conversation, in a very kind of relaxed manner and just discuss it simply, they're not going to turn you away, are they, really? So yeah, it's been something that's only got easier over time, because as well it's a lot more recognized now as well globally, isn't it? It's a lot more. I think that it's very rare to maybe go to a restaurant these days unless you're in the middle of nowhere that doesn't have some sort of vegetarian option at all, and then that's very easy just to veganize. So I've always found it quite easy these days. And in terms of snacks, I kind of maybe I'll make my own or something if I need to, if I can't find anything. But typically, as those kind of snacks for me, maybe for a race, would be kind of dark chocolate. So something like Lindt chocolate, which seems to be available globally, so that's always pretty easy to get hold of. Or just some potato chips, crisps, which you can find, and you can always check the ingredients. It's always pretty clear if they're vegan or not. Or just some nuts, so as you kind of evolve with the diet, or your time within the diet, I think it gets easier, because looking at the back of packets and ingredients just becomes second nature to you. You don't think about it anymore, and then you kind of learn what you can and can't have anyway, even if it seems a bit vague, you just don't bother maybe. So that's typically it. Rolling on to the second part of the question, I think it was, what do I eat on long runs?
Fueling tips during a long race.
Yes. So during a long race, I'll use Unived gels. So those, I'll have maybe 2 gels an hour. Use their Unived Elite range, which has quite a high calorie intake because it has a mix of complex and simple carbohydrates. So it means that I can get quite a lot of calories an hour from those. So typically I'll focus on 2 gels an hour. Or I'll have, maybe if it's a really hot race, I'll have a bottle of their drink mix and a gel each hour, and I think that ends up being around 380 calories within the hour from those sources. And then in terms of other kind of solid foods within the race, things that work well for me that I enjoy would be peanut butter jam sandwich, something similar like that, or maybe for UTMB actually I was making rice balls, so just plain white rice, boiling that up and stuffing it in a little kind of sandwich baggie, and then putting a little bit of avocado in there, maybe a little pinch of salt, and that was quite a nice, very easy on the stomach little treat to have on the trail then, because there was no way I was going to be eating just sugary gels or things like that for as long as I was going to be out there. But yeah, typically then that allows me to kind of manage then, like I said, having some solid foods and having those really easy to get down gels within the race as well, to keep the energy high throughout the race without overdoing it too early in the race. But yeah, I'll always snack on some fruits as well throughout the race at the aid station. So if I need something quick to grab, then bananas are something that's typically always there. And if you chew that enough, then it's just like a natural gel. So
yeah, it is, isn't it? I love the idea of the rice bag with avocado and really like that idea. Yeah, it sounds delicious. And how about recovery afterwards? Do you have a special kind of vegan based smoothie or anything like that?
yeah, so Unived have my sponsor. I do have a recovery mix, so I'll have that straight away with and I'll usually dilute it down quite a lot, because I think hydration is just as important as getting in the calories, typically for me anyway, because I sweat quite a lot, and a lot of the races you'll finish in that midday heat. For these longer races, if you start at night time, or if you start earlier in the morning, for the races, the ultras, you'll typically be running through the heat of the day. So it's important to really focus on hydration as much as anything, as well as then just getting it all in. So typically I'll have the recovery mix maybe, but I'll also focus in on fruits. So watermelon's a great one, really easy to stomach. So if you're feeling a bit queasy, really easy to get down. And then after that, then maybe vegan pizza, maybe another vegan pizza, just getting in as much as you can. I think volume is important, because you've burnt through the calories quite intensely throughout an ultra, and there's not a lot left on me after some of these big races, so you need to make sure you're eating enough and treating yourself. It's the big trail party after all the training you've been through, and the race itself. You need to treat yourself a little bit and get those calories in. So that is an important aspect, and it can make the difference between recovering quickly after a race or it's taking weeks for yourself to feel a bit normal again.
Yeah, that's really good advice there, and that's loads of nice food ideas as well. I like the idea of the vegan pizzas for sure. That would be delicious. So thank you very much for all the information about the food there. And just two last questions really. One's quite a big one. What is next? So obviously there's no races this year, and when we were at the UTMB and we were chatting there, you did say you might consider doing it again, but then there's so many races in the world that you'd enjoy to do. So Di Wilson has this question for you. Well, first he says Harry is a brilliant runner and ambassador for the sport. Couple of quick questions. He's run all over the world. If he had to choose one memorable race or run, what would that be and why?
Yeah, it's such a hard question to answer. I'm really terrible at that kind of ultimate kind of number one races. It's a really difficult question. I think I probably answer it differently whenever I've had it. But yeah, one race that really stands out that I'd love to go back to again would be Lavaredo Ultra Trail. The Dolomites are just very spectacular mountain range, really beautiful. There's definitely some moments in that race where I was kind of blinking my eyes like, oh, is this real, or am I kind of imagining this? Just because you're running up these incredible, just very dramatic mountain faces around you, but you'd be running, just climbing for a really long time, and you just be in this incredible valley which was in the middle of like the mountain range itself, and it's just spectacular. So Dolomites Lavaredo Ultra Trail definitely stands out for me as a race that was just really mind-blowing, really amazing, really beautiful, and great atmosphere. So I'd love to go back there again and have a strong race. But yeah, I'm very lucky. I've raced in a lot of different places, and if you watch my race videos, I always feel like maybe it's a little bit repetitive, because I'm always like, oh, it's so spectacular and so beautiful. But I feel very lucky that there's very few races that I've done where I haven't appreciated the trails. And I think if you're a trail runner, and you're doing a race that is so physically and emotionally demanding, you quite often come out with fond memories of the nature and of the trail itself. Even if it's completely different from one mountain range to another, you can always appreciate those things on the trail.
Yeah, wow, yeah, Lavaredo looks amazing. The Dolomites, I've run in the Dolomites before, and they just are incredible, so I can see why you've chosen that one. And Di has got a second part of his question, and he says, when the races start back, seeing as you've completed the UTMB, what are your main plans for running? Are you going to stick to 100 milers, like Western States, etc., or do you fancy moving to multi-day ultras? He's thinking like maybe the Dragon's Back race. He says it would be great to see another home runner on the Dragon's Back race. Huge thanks and all the best.
Dragon's Back race, I'd love to do that race someday for sure. It would be awesome route to do, obviously through Wales. That's definitely on the bucket list without a doubt. But I think really, this year has been kind of pushed to next year for a lot of runners, I guess. So a lot of the races I was planning on doing this year, I'll be doing likely next year. So next year I'll be doing UTMB again if everything's good there. I'd love to go back to UTMB again and really try and nail it. Dragon's Back race in the future would be great. But I think really I'll be sticking to the kind of 100k distance. So to 100-mile distance for the next few years, and then think about approaching into the kind of multi-day world a little bit more. I'd love to do Dragon's Back. That would be brilliant, really cool.
Yeah, I think a lot of people would love to see a Welsh elite athlete do the Dragon's Back, so that would be amazing. Thank you for that. And we just got time. We did have one question just in the live chat just here. Chloe Mason says, "Do you drink beer, Harry?"
I do drink beer. I don't drink an awful lot, I'll have the occasional beer. Quite often just to be able to relax a bit if training's been pretty intense or anything else, just to slow my mind and my body down a little bit. It's nice to have the occasional one. Nothing crazy, but now and again for sure.
Brilliant. Thanks for answering that. There's been loads of chat about the vegan food as well. Quite a lot of people watching are plant-based or kind of trying to go plant-based, and they're all sharing ideas here, like potato burritos and stuff like that. And some great comments from people as well, like Running Ram says, "Wow, great interview, would love to watch this in repeat." Yep, you can do that, Running Ram, just go to the beginning again. There was another one as well. Oh yes, Philip Haddock said, "Cool, thank you for answering my question. It's helped me out a lot." He was asking about the vegan snacks.
Oh, nice.
So just one last question, because something very exciting is happening in the life of you and Louise. And Adrian Camillari wants to give you some congratulations. So he says, "Congratulations for finding out that you are going to become a dad soon." He would like to know how you think that might affect your running, if you can see into the future.
We'll find out, I guess. So I think it'll be towards the end of October, so that's really exciting to look forward to. And in terms of my running and my training, I'll be planning to race as much as I am now and be as competitive as I am now. It might be a little bit tricky to start with, but I'm definitely not planning on running any kind of big races into those winter months, just as we're getting used to baby and all the challenges that brings. But for sure, I'm really confident that I'll be able to adapt to it. I'm very lucky that any of the coaching work I do from home, and then so I can really kind of fit my work and my training if it needs to be around a baby and supporting Louise with the baby as well as much as possible. I very much want to be part of the process there. And Louise is such a supportive, if you haven't guessed already in this conversation, is very supportive of me and my running and pushing me to do the best I can and focusing on my passion. So I think we'll be a good team and we'll be able to get it done. And I think as other runners, like Scotty Hawker, Hayden Hawks, good friends who both have young kids who they've shown me that you can be at the top of the sport and still be a very active dad. And so it's great to have friends who are also young dads, but who are absolutely doing amazing things in the sport.
Yeah, it's really inspiring, isn't it? And of course, Killian as well.
Killian. There you go.
Yeah, you're all at it these days.
Of course, I know it's not going to be easy to any dads out there who are like, "Oh, you wait and see." I know it'll be challenging, and I know definitely anticipating some long nights, but it'll be good fun.
Yeah, it'll be good for your sleep deprivation. And oh yeah, I've just
Yeah.
thought that. And actually, somebody's just written that on the live chat. Chloe Mason says the sleep deprivation will help you in your long running. So I'm gonna read out. People have written some really lovely things about you, which I am about to read out to you to end the conversation. But just before we go tonight, Harry, I want to say thank you, and I just want to give you the opportunity to say to people, like, because you're a coach as well, aren't you? And you're you obviously people can follow you on Instagram. What are all the ways that people can get in touch with you and follow you for any kind of coaching or any training camps you've got coming up?
Yeah, so for coaching or training camps, if you go to harryruns.com, so really simple, you'll find any information about any upcoming camps on there. So as I said, we haven't got anything planned for the moment. With the situation with everything going on, but hopefully in the future we'll have a few more camps going on. It'd be great to do some in the UK, or maybe just some kind of one-off day runs or something like that. It'd be great to do. So yeah, hopefully in the future there'll be some stuff like that coming up. But yeah, Harry Runs on Facebook, Instagram Harry Runs. So it's pretty easy to find me. Pretty simple handle there. But yeah, YouTube is all there, and some I think a Q&A went out today on there. And the most recent video was the race video, was the UTMB video. So if you haven't seen that, please do watch it, share it, like it. Be great to hear your feedback on that. But yeah, there's some cool videos from the winter. So we've been a bit behind with our videos. Some footage from the end of last year, and then my training in Brecon Beacons over the winter to look forward to, and then into a good flow with the videos again. So yeah, that's about it really. Who knows what the future holds for all of us right now, but yeah, be back on the mountains soon. I'm really excited for that, so I'll be making some more videos then.
Awesome, that's brilliant. Yeah, everybody give Harry a follow on Instagram, on Facebook, on YouTube, and do watch his films. They're really, really good, especially the most recent UTMB one. It's a really beautiful film there. So I just going to say thanks to you, Harry, by reading out some really nice comments here. So Paul Hamilton says, thanks Harry, brilliant interview. Eric Soderblom says, great, with a smiley face. Di Wilson says, thank you, great answers, thanks Harry. Certainly you and Dan's videos of the Lavorado Trail looked awesome. Definitely one for the bucket list. And Running Ram says, thanks Harry, thanks Claire. Robin says, thanks guys, great interview. John, thanks Harry. Jasper Kiernan says, brilliant interview, thanks Claire and Harry, wash hands, wash hands. And Seb says, thanks Claire and Harry for an awesome episode, and all the best for the birth of your child in the fall, Harry. King Lifetale says, thanks again guys, fantastic. Sharon Jameson says, another inspiring interview, thanks to you both, vegan power. Sharon Houston says, great, thanks. And John Airy says, thanks Harry as well. So
Thank you all.
So thank you so much for joining us, Harry. It's been a real pleasure to chat to you tonight. Best of luck with the baby being born in October, and we look forward to following you and all your exploits for the coming years ahead.
Brilliant. Yeah, thanks all for watching. It's been great to be on, and yeah, keep doing what you're doing, Claire, and all the best on your part of the world there, and yeah, hopefully you'll be able to go for a run soon.
Yeah, that would be great. I will let you know when I'm next in Wales. That would be awesome. Cool. Okay, well thanks very much, Harry, and we'll see you soon.
Awesome. Take care. Bye.
Bye.